Hello, everybody. This is Matthew Brand. We're talking about gun violence today. Everybody's favorite subject, so get ready to get triggered. Now, here's the deal. Gun violence comes in a variety of issues. In fact, it's more a compilation of things than it is really a simple throwaway term such as gun violence. You have crime, suicide, altercations, crazy domestic terrorism, and then you have, of course, how should I put accidents. So you have all these different things, and it all gets conflated under one term, gun violence. And we try to hit these five birds with one stone. There are other issues as well, but if we can tackle these instead of looking at whatever tool is used for them, because they're a problem in any society, whether it's guns or not, we'll really be able to lower the amount of not just gun violence, but violence in general, whether it's, self harm or harm people on people. Speaking of self harm, the vast majority of deaths related to guns or anything is actually suicides. More people are committing suicides with guns than are killing each other. Inherently, we don't really tend to kill one another unless provoked, which leads me to another point, which is altercations. A lot of altercations are what I would call not socially influenced. Basically, they're one on one, they're domestic, they're spot off with a stranger that ended in a bad argument or something. These are things, altercations are what we use our guns to defend ourselves, but it's also sometimes leads to unnecessary death or unnecessary act because of something we could have walked away from. A good example is some of the shootings that happened when we had, let's say, the case where the guy he was arguing over a handicapped parking spot with some woman. Her boyfriend comes out, shoves him to the ground, and the guy shoots him. 9 times out of 10, or actually 99 times out of 100, that altercation would have not ended in anybody's death if there was no gun in the picture. This we have to accept. We also have to accept that a lot of suicides probably people will have walked away from them and gone on to maybe not commit suicide again if they hadn't used such an effective mean of committing suicides. Doesn't necessarily mean the gun, but they're using strong effective means. They're serious about it. Most of the time they're men. And also when you take into account that these altercations don't happen very often, when you look at the fact that, once again, most of these gun deaths are suicides, and the last remaining 10,000 or so that happen each year, they are small in comparison to the overall population of not just people who live in the United States, but deaths in general. There's not that many people who die due to guns, whether it's by altercation, whether it's because of a police officer justifiably shooting somebody, whether it's because of a self defense encounter. Guns don't kill that many people each year, but we have a whole lot of them. So, what people are really focused on are the crazy wacko one-off shootings that happen in schools, that happen when a large amount of people die at one time. They're way more common now than bombings or suicide bombers or stuff like the Boston bombing. Guns have kind of replaced that as the focus on terrorism, and they're becoming more and more and more common. Now, this is domestic terrorism. These are people, young people, often under the age of 25, who are getting a hold of guns and deciding that they want to take it out on the world before taking themselves out. What I don't understand these people, but I understand that people come when these people come from a place of hurt. Most of them aren't just happy living a wonderful life and then decide to go out and take it out on everybody. Something is bothering them. Very rarely is it some rhetoric on racism or something like that. Before the shooting that happened in, I believe it was El Paso, the biggest shooter was a Muslim black American guy who, for whatever reason, decided to shoot up Virginia Beach. Now he shot it up with a handgun, and some people are like, "Oh, he had a silencer on and they couldn't hear it." No, they heard it. But what happens very often when you hear gunfire, especially when it's in a place where it doesn't happen too often, like Detroit or Chicago, Los Angeles, some parts of New England, what you're really finding out is people don't believe it's gunfire. this isn't happening. That wouldn't happen here. What is that loud noise? And they get nervous. They're like, oh, maybe it's a jackhammer outside. They're related to some other loud noise they're more commonly hear, like fireworks or something. So that being said, yeah, that is not the silencer. It wasn't that it was a rifle or any special type of gun. It was just a 45 handgun. And if people aren't familiar with 45s, if you're not too familiar with guns, that's one of the larger bullets, which actually means that whatever magazine was holding it, it holds less than it would with something, let's say 9 millimeter, and isn't that much more effective. I mean, when you hit somebody with it, it does the job. But most police and other law enforcement, military, they carry 9 millimeter because you can fit more bullets inside the gun. So, keeping that in mind, right? Keeping that in your head, the thing to understand is it's probably not really the gun as much as it is a social issue. Now, one issue that does relate to the guns is accidents. People accidentally shooting themselves, kids accidentally getting a hold on guns. That's often due to negligence. And the best way to fight negligence is education, practice, understanding. We are often very hesitant to be open to new ideas, to listen to other people. There's even a saying go around I've been hearing a lot lately called "Okay Boomer," right? And I'm not a baby boomer. I'm not even old, but the idea that if someone disagrees with us, we just dismiss them instead of hearing them out and taking the time to listen to their side of things, and maybe not even dismissing them afterwards, even if we think they're wrong, but just say, okay, I'll look into that. We have a big problem with that in today's society. Okay, boomer, or whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. Look into things. It's okay to check me or any other person you're listening to. There are a variety of things we can do to reduce gun violence. Unfortunately, just because the violence, if we take away the gun violence and the violence transforms into bombs, stabbings, and a variety of other things, just because it can't all be conflated into, oh, well, it's the guns, doesn't mean that we've made the United States or any other country any safer. Keep your head about you and do the things you can do to keep your friends and family safe. One of the worst things you can probably do is get rid of your rights, because yes, there are going to be crazy people out there. There's nothing you can really do about it besides trying to make sure that they get the help that they need, that they're getting the love and attention that they need. A lot of these people aren't bipolar. They're not mad or psychopaths. They're just lonely. They're just really hurt sometimes. And sometimes they do have a little bit of a mental disorder and they aren't getting the attention that they need. They have an overworked parent, or they have a parent that's just a piece of crap. I mean, it can be all manners of things. Sometimes they're in between. Many parents are in between. They're not saints. They're people who are, people, and they happen to reproduce. It's just the way it is. So we can do something about it, but we need to tackle the real issue, which is a social issue. Take it upon ourselves, whether you're pro-gun or anti-gun, that, hey, we are failing each other as a society. We need to be there for each other. We need to put down the social media. And it's hard to tell people that nowadays. They're too focused on Instagram, too focused on what Kim Kardashian's doing, too focused on whether Kanye West is a preacher or not, and too focused on what some cop did to some guy you don't know in another town that you've never been in. It's not that you can't speak up and be an advocate, but take care of self first and take care of the people around you. Don't neglect them for some bunch of strangers in a video that could have been manufactured, for all you know, from somebody guys seeking out a problem. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, this is Matthew Brand. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.